Tuples are a data type we will definitely encounter in our Python programming journey, whether we perhaps recognize it or not. So let's spend some time talking about tuples. They are an immutable, in other words, unchangeable, ordered collection of items. They can contain duplicates, and they can also contain mixed data types. So they will preserve the order. So here's an example of a tuple variable defined with two values. They can contain many values, but we have two values. And this value will always be the first value. This value will be the second value and last value. We cannot change this. If we try to change it, we can't. And so that has some benefits for programming. Which it makes them useful for representing fixed collections of items, such as you can see, a coordinate that would never change. So we could potentially store coordinates in a tuple, for example. And they're defined by enclosing these elements in parentheses and separating them with commas, just as we see here. So Python sees that. It sees these parentheses. It sees values separated by commas, just like this. It knows that's a tuple. Since they are immutable, since we cannot change these values, then there's not very many methods really to work with. There's the count and the index method. And if we want to change the values in a tuple, what we can do to work around this, if we need to change them, is we could convert to a list and then modify and then convert back to a tuple. So, for example, here we've got a couple examples of that. On the left, we've got our tuple, apple, banana, cherry. We convert that, we typecast that to a list, and we assign that to the value of the y variable. Then we say, okay, the index position 1, change that to kiwi, and then convert it back to a tuple and print that, and it prints apple, kiwi, cherry instead of apple, banana, cherry. Same over here. We could append an item, an orange at the end of this list, this tuple, after we convert it to a list, and then change it back to a tuple, and it will now be apple, banana, orange. So something interesting to note. There's also something called packing and unpacking a tuple. You'll hear these terms along your Python programming journey. Packing a tuple just means essentially creating a tuple, adding values to a tuple, which creates a tuple because as we have discussed, it's immutable. So creating a tuple is the same as packing a tuple. Just different ways of saying it. Unpacking a tuple occurs when we assign variables to the values of a tuple. So we have our tuple called fruits, and we have apple, banana, and cherry. Well, what we could do is we could say, I have 3 new variables, green, yellow, and red. These are the variable names. And we're going to assign that to the fruit tuple. So apple will now be the value of green, the green variable. Banana will be the value of the yellow variable. And cherry will be unpacked into the red variable. So if we print these, we'll see that that's the case. Print our green variable, which is apple, yellow variable is banana, and red variable is cherry. Let's just look at a few examples here. We can say my tuple equals red, orange, green. And let's look at dir my tuple. We see there are only 2 methods available. To help my tuple.count, we can input a value and return the number of occurrences of that value. So we could say my tuple.count red. There's one occurrence of the letter red. The color red. And let's do my tuple dot, help my tuple dot index. Return the first index of a value and raises value error if the value is not present. So let's say my tuple dot index of red, and it is in index position 0. Tuples are indexed, unlike sets, so we can access them by index. So if we scroll up here, we see red is in the 0th index. So let's try printing my tuple 0. And we see that prints red. So those are just a few examples of working with tuples.